Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all well and had a good break over the holidays and ready and raring to keep going for the new year. I'm very excited to be back at the office. We've got a big year this year, number one being our conference that we're going to have this year. We've got lots of amazing speakers who are going to be speaking at our conference, and we're looking forward to presenting our very first conference in Newcastle and all the exciting things that are going to happen with that, especially the networking and socialising. So I get to meet all our clients and catch up with them and see how you're all going. Okay, so for today's session, we are going through the standards 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, which is all about the training and assessment strategies. We have a video for this already on Unicorn about the training and assessment strategies, but we're going to go through, there's a couple of changes that have happened with the TASs since that video. In particular, the industry consultation survey has changed, so we're going to go through that today, and we're going to go through a few details, and it's also your opportunity to be able to ask any questions that you may have. So today's session is on training and assessment strategies. So welcome. I'd just like to remind everyone that if you have any questions, please type it into the chat box on the left-hand side of your screen, and I'll answer them as I go through the session. I can't hear you. You can hear me, of course. I'm hoping you can. But I won't be able to hear you at all. So the best way is to put your question in the chat session. You can either have it as an open chat so everyone can see the question, or you can have it as a private chat directly to me, and I'm the only one that can see the question. So you can do that on site. If someone can just say hi in the chat session so I know that that's working, so I know that you're able to hear me for one thing. That's the most important one. I haven't got anything yet. Yes, hi Matt, thank you. And Nishant, very good. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so this webinar forms part of your continuous improvement process under standard 2.2. Following the webinar, you should review the policy and procedure for these standards, 1.1 to 1.4, which comes up policy and procedure. So you should review that and have a look at that policy and procedure and make sure you're following it. Now, the majority of 1.1 to 1.4 is all about the development of your training and assessment strategy. When you go to audit, they actually won't look at the policy and procedure for 1.1 to 1.4. They'll just look at your training and assessment strategy. The reason why you have a procedure is so that you know what's involved with developing a training and assessment strategy and what you have to do. Now, 1.1 to 1.4 is just the development of the TAS, but 1.5 and 1.6 is industry consultation. This one should actually be in this webinar. I think I've got a separate one for it, but it's really important. Industry consultation is one of the most important parts of developing the TAS, so we're going to go into a bit of detail about that. You should also have a look at the policy and procedure for the quality and compliance meeting, so make sure you minute this, so have a meeting following this. Now, some people have said to me they're going to hold the meeting, this is going to be their meeting, and they'll do their minutes following the webinar that they've reviewed. So, because part of your quality and compliance meetings is that you will review the standards, so you'll review a couple of standards each month, and for this month, for January, it's training and assessment strategy, so 1.1 to 1.4. So you can have do your minutes straight after this meeting and just go through there and type up what you learned today. And you could also have your TASs in front of you while we're going through this webinar, so you can have a look at what specifically might be in your TAS that you have some questions on. I'm going to go through the TAS template today, so we're just going to have a look at the template. But you can show me, you can ask me any questions that you may have specifically to your TAS, and I'll answer those today. So you should have a look at that for the quality compliance meeting. If you haven't held a meeting yet, you should hold one. We need at least 2 or 3 minutes before your audit, because that demonstrates that you're implementing your policies and procedures. So one of the biggest concerns of auditors is that you hire our organisation to get you compliant, but you don't actually follow the policies and procedures. So one way to demonstrate that you are is hold your monthly meeting and minute those that meeting and have evidence of that you've held that. And it's also the reason why we have the quality and compliance meetings is it's one way to ensure that you are continually improving your practices, and it also keeps everyone up to date with what are you doing within your RTO. So as per the policies and procedures for the continuous improvement under 2.2, it says that you are going to review the continuous improvement cycle, which was that page before. That's that continuous improvement cycle there. So we're looking at 1.1 to 1.4 today. But it says in your policies and procedures that you're going to review these standards each month. So you should have that in your minutes of your meeting. So you should look at the policies and procedures for 1.1 to 1.4 and make sure that you are actually following those policies and procedures. You should also review any documentation relating to those standards. So for this one, it's reviewing your training and assessment strategy. I've picked January as a time for when you should review your TASs every year. So every year you should be having a look at your TASs. I picked January because January tends to be a bit of a slower sort of month. You're more doing marketing and getting students into your courses, but it's also a really good time to go through your TASs. Trainers are normally not doing much work at this time of the year, so it's a great time of the year to give it to your trainers and get them to review your training and assessment strategy as well. And what you should be looking at in your training and assessment strategy is this is what we said we're going to do in our training and assessment strategy. Are we actually doing that? So that's once you get up and going, you need to have a look at that and go, okay, the strategy says we're going to deliver this way, we're assessing this way. Are we actually doing that? And if we're not, we need to either update the TAS or change our practices so it's in line with the TAS. So this is a pullback every year that says, okay, are we doing this? Are we doing it properly? Should there be some changes we make to our training and assessment to make sure that it actually does align with the requirements of the training and assessment strategy, or do we need to update the training and assessment strategy to what we're actually doing? What are our practices? So with standard 1.1 and through to 1.4, what they're looking at is not only the training and assessment strategy, the document, it's the actual practice of it as well. So are you actually doing what you said you were going to do in your TAS? So down the track, when they come back for your 1 year post-initial or your re-registration audit, they'll be looking at your TAS. When they read the TAS, are you actually doing that? So they'll want to see evidence of that. If you said they are doing work placement, they want to see evidence of work placement. If you said in your TAS you're going to have an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with work placement providers, they want to see evidence of that. So they want to see evidence of that you are doing what you said you were going to do in the training and assessment strategy. Okay. So your training and assessment strategy in the standards actually says it's grouped under implement a comprehensive training and assessment strategy. So, and we call them TASs. So if you hear me saying TAS, that's what I mean. A TAS is a training and assessment strategy. ASCA auditors also call it TASs as well. Your strategy is the key document required in audit, as it explains how you deliver, will be or are delivering your training and assessment. So it should be a clear document that you could give to an auditor, and it's normally 2 weeks prior to your audit that the auditor will read this, and they'll go through it. They should. They don't always, but they should. And they should read that, and then before they come into your RTO, they've already got a snapshot. This is what I should be expecting. I should be expecting memorandum of understanding, work placement, that they've done industry consultation. I should see evidence of that industry consultation. There should be a range of things that they should see once they've read that TAS. But the TAS is also very important for your trainer and assessor. It's a guide that you give to your trainer and assessor and says, so if you've hired a trainer assessor, it's one way to ensure that you get consistency with the delivery of training and assessment with your trainers and assessors. So when I had my RTO, I had over 40 trainers and assessors across the state of New South Wales, and they were all over the place. So in order to ensure that all my trainers and assessors understood how I wanted the qualification to be delivered, it was all on the TAS. So it was basically telling them, this is how I want you to deliver. This is where, like, I need you to do practical tasks. I need you to do simulations. It's not just a matter of giving them the assessment tools. This is the strategy on how I want you to deliver this training and assessment. So not only how I wanted to as the CEO, but also because it complied with the legislation. We've incorporated everything from the training package into the training and assessment strategy. That's part of what the CLOs do for you. They go to the training package and extract all the information out of the training package that is relevant for that qualification or unit of competency. That says, okay, the training package says you must do this, you must have simulations, you must have work placement as a component, you must use this equipment, and sometimes it says should and could and things like that, but that's all incorporated into your training and assessment strategy. So that way your trainer or assessor knows, okay, according to the training package, even if they've never looked at the training package, and believe you me, there are so many trainers out there who have never looked at the training package and have no idea what it is, at least if it's in the TAS, they'll know what they need to do, so they need to follow that. And it's really important document. It should be part of their contract. We've got it in our contracts for trainers and assessors that they should be involved with the review of the training and assessment strategy and that they should follow it. That's part of their requirement as a trainer and assessor, that they must follow the training and assessment strategy. And who better to review your TAS than the trainer and assessor? They should be looking at it and going, are we doing this? Am I delivering it this way? Am I assessing this way? If I'm not, why not? Is it because we need to change the TAS? Do we need to update the TAS? Or do I need, as a trainer or assessor, to align to the TAS? Is there something in the TAS that I really need to be following in there? So they should review it and then give you feedback as the CEO. If you're also the trainer and assessor, you could be having a conversation with yourself. So have that conversation where you say, okay, are we doing this? If we're not doing this, why aren't we doing this? Do we need to update the TAS, or do we need to update the practices, what we're actually doing, how we're delivering the training and assessment? Now, a TAS is also a really important document for your clients, potential clients. Now, I've seen on a number of occasions where training organisations have written their TAS specifically for a client. So one example we had is we had a project management company that we were setting up as an initial registration. And what we did for the initial registration is the only reason why they were setting up as an RTO is they got a $1 million contract that was dependent on them being an RTO. So basically, they were just setting up so that they could deliver training for this organisation. So we wrote the TAS specifically around that one organisation. So all the industry consultation was coming from this one organisation. So managers and staff within that organisation were giving the feedback that we then put into the TAS. So we actually said, for this organisation, we're going to deliver this way, we're going to assess this way, we're going to go do some assessing on the job, we're going to be delivering training on their sites, we're also going to have an online component. We consulted with the staff and the management who said they wanted this, 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 and this, and that's how we put it into the TAS. So it's a really important document. So that document, you can then give it to the client and say, here's our proposal. This is what we propose to do for your organisation. Give us some feedback if you want us to change the way we're going to deliver this training and assessment specifically for your organisation. So you can write TASs specifically for an organisation or for an industry. So if you're working in aged care industry, you might want to consult a number of aged care facilities who may be potential employers where your students may go, or it may be potentially where your students are going to do work placement. So you go to those employers and get feedback from them on how they would like the training to be delivered. And if you're going to be targeting existing workers, you would want to ask their staff within that aged care facility, well, what's going to work for you? How many days per week could you attend? What day could you attend? How is this training going to suit you? And then that should be incorporated into your training and assessment strategy. And as the document said, this is your strategy on how you're going to train and assess. It's a bit like a business plan, but just for your training and assessment. So it's your business plan on how you're going to deliver this and what are you proposing. And half the time a business plan, people see it as a useless document. It's a document that no one else may see, but just the process of developing that business plan helps you to clarify all this information and get it out of your head and onto paper on how you're going to run your business. This is the same with training and assessment. You might have an idea, or your trainers and assessors may have an idea of how they want to deliver this training assessment. Get down on paper, nut it out, and have a strategy on how you're going to deliver that training and assessment. It's a really important document. It's not just for audit. So many people think that the TAS is just for audit. It's not just for audit. It is a real key document within your organisation, one of the most important documents in your organisation. And unfortunately, when I go in for re-registration audits, it's often the most forgotten document. No one's updated it and kept it up to date for actually how they're delivering their training and assessment. And it's a lot of work to get it put back in line to what you need to do. And this is the reason why, at least once a year, you should be reviewing your TAS and having a look at it and going, okay, are we doing this? If we're not doing this, why aren't we doing this? How should we update this? Okay, if I'm going too fast, just let me know. And if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm very passionate about TASs. It's often the most non-compliant part of any audit. And it's where most of the issues are at audit. So the number one non-compliances at audit are training and assessment strategies. So 1.1 to 1.4. 1.8, which is assessment tools. That's another webinar. We get to do that all on its own. And the other one is 1.13, which is trainers and assessors and their skills and quals. So they're the top 3 non-compliances at audit. And whenever you have non-compliances with any of those, you also have non-compliance with 2.1, which is being non-compliant with any of the standards. So we need to get this right, and it's a really important document. Okay. So the other most important part of your TAS is the industry consultation. So I've talked about that a bit and how you should take that consultation and put it into your training and assessment strategy. We'll go into that a bit further down in the slides. Okay, so your training and assessment strategy, we're just going to have a look at that now. I'm just going to share my desktop with you. How to do that. I had a month off and I forget how to do everything. Desktop, there it is. Okay. All right, so just take a little bit for that to come up, but we're going to go through the training and assessment strategy. Can someone just let me know that they can see the training and assessment strategy on the screen? That would be good. Yes, good, thank you. Okay, so this is the template that we use. So it's the first template that the CLOs will start with. And there's all sorts, all these highlights mean different things, and there's actually instructions here. And sometimes I see the instructions come up. So you'll see there's instructions on the right-hand side that tells this, I've written this, just tell the CLO what they're to do when they write the TAS. So it has instructions there and tells them what they need to complete, what they need to get from the client, and also what will come out of the TAS questionnaire or the industry surveys that you've done. So we're not going to focus on that today because I know it all. I know what we're doing there. So we'll just go back to the original. Okay, so the way the training and assessment strategy has been written is we've addressed the actual requirements within the standard. So we've actually gone through and looked at what they have on training on ASQUAnet and what they've asked specifically to be in the TAS, and we've written this in line with the specific requirements of what ASQUAnet requires, but also what the standards actually state that we need for to have on our training and assessment strategy. So the first bit, so all these yellow bits is going to be completed by your CLO, but it's just information that comes directly from training.gov.au. So we put in the qualification name, we put in the training package, we put in what relevant industry skills councils there is, the packaging rules, so if there's any equivalence or co-assessed, pre-assessments, things like that that need to be undertaken, how many units are in the qual, how many core, how many electives, things like that. We also have, if there's in a single unit, so this row here is just for single units. If you are just doing a single unit, there may be specific requirements within that single unit. For full qualifications, delete this row. So this is not required. And for single units, you delete that row. So you don't need the full packaging rules. You just need the unit of competency rules. So you either have this one for full quals or this one for single units, one or the other, and delete one of the rows. Okay, so this will go into detail of what that single unit requirements are. So if there's any licensing requirements, legislative requirements, things like that that are in there for the... I think I've actually deleted this row now, pathways. Pathways is once they've completed this qualification or unit, where can they go from there? So what unit or qualification could they do following that? I think I've actually taken that out because a lot of the auditors didn't require it, or they were getting very picky about it and saying, oh, but this isn't a pathway and things like that. So I think I might have taken this out. I'll check with that later. But it's basically just telling you, as per the training package, where can they go once they finish this qualification? Is there a pathway that they can go into? Skills comes from the training package, so it comes from each unit of competency, and it has an outline of, okay, what are the key skills that the student should have in order for them to be able to complete this course qualification unit of competency. Also, I'll just explain, I think I've actually changed this now to training product as well. Training product, here it is, training product. So what they're calling a unit of competency or a course or qualification is a training product now. So they've just given it one name, so we don't have to try and clarify which one it is. It's just one name is training product. So if you hear me saying training product, it's a course or a qualification or unit of competency. Okay, so these foundation skills are specific to that training product, and what are the key skills that the student should have. It's normally the skills that they should have before they come into the course, so they must be able to have these key skills before they come in. So an example might be they might have to have basic numeracy, be able to add, subtract, and use their times tables. Whereas a more complicated qualification might be they need to know formulas, division, and more complex numerical and mathematical skills. So they might have a higher level, they may require a higher level. Some may be digital literacy, they might have required computer skills that they need to have before they come into this course and do this qualification. So it's a really good way to identify, and as I said, give it to your trainer, assessor, and give it to potential employers. What do these students need to have before they come in? So it's helping you identify who your target audience is based on the training package and what the training package requires the student to have before they come in. So as I said, the CLO will complete this as well. Okay, still on the front page, this executive summary is what we need you to complete. As a client, you need to complete this executive summary. Executive summary should be basically, why do you want to deliver this qualification? Are you meeting a specific industry need? Are you meeting a specific organisational need or company need? Has there been a change of legislation that's affected the industry that you now need? This is the reason why you've got this qualification. Now, for initial registrations, we normally go with an open-ended, just industry need, but you might have a specific company. You are writing this TAS for a specific company or a specific target audience. It might be that you're targeting students overseas and you're going to be delivering training overseas, and that training that you're delivering overseas is going to be specific. So we had one client, for example, he was becoming an RTO, he was working under partnership with another RTO, and he decided to become his own RTO. He's delivering training and assessment specifically for clients in Papua New Guinea, and these students, so he was going over to Papua New Guinea and delivering, he's still doing it now, he's delivering training in Papua New Guinea, and he's the one delivering it. So he goes over there, delivers the training, he does like 2-week blocks or something like that, delivers the training, and then comes back and they might have some work that they've got to do on their own, and then he'll go back and deliver another workshop. So that should be in your executive summary. Not the plan of how you're going to deliver it, but it should be, okay, we're targeting this. It was a mining company in they don't have the sufficient training resources required over there to deliver the training, or staff that can actually have the skills and knowledge to deliver the training. So we're meeting their need by going over there and delivering these workshops where it's hands-on based, so you can go into the detail of it. It's hands-on based, we're doing practical training, and we're using actual mine shafts or something like that for the delivery of the training. And as it says in the executive summary, it's just an overview. You go into details of how you're going to deliver and assess further down in the TAS, but it should be an overview. So the executive summary can be for a specific target audience, a specific company, organisation, or just an industry need, an overall industry need. Okay, so that's your executive summary. Okay, so down a bit lower, we're going to go into units of competency. So we'll actually, your CLO will actually enter the units of competency here. They'll put in here that whether it's a core or an elective, so we'll identify what it is. They'll put in here an idea of the hours. So normally they might populate this column here, which is total volume of learning, with the nominal hours. There's a website that we can go to that includes nominal hours. I thought I might have the link there, but I don't. It's the Victorian Department of Education Training. They have some nominal hours on there. It's starting to die out, but the total volume of learning, we're going to go into a bit further in that, but total volume of learning is for a specific level of qualification, you need to have a certain amount of hours and deliver over a certain amount of time. So they'll take the learning and put that in here for you, and then we need to divide that up. Now, if it's a qualification we've worked with before, we're able to populate this with you, but if it's something we haven't worked with before, we're just going to have to go with what we know are the nominal hours, and then you need to break these down into how you want it delivered. So how many hours, self-paced hours is the hours that they will need to do of their own learning, so on their own. It might be pre-reading, it might be exercises, activities that they have to do at home, it might be online learning that they're going to do to complement the course, but it's things that they've got to do on their own. And the hours you put in here should be for your weakest student. So who is your weakest student? How many hours would that weakest student need to read this textbook or read this couple of chapters? So that's what you should put in there to allocate what are the hours that your students should have allocated to complete that unit. Face-to-face hours is how many hours per unit are you going to deliver that course over. So that unit, how many hours will they be in the classroom face-to-face? Now, you may not have face-to-face, it might be online, it might be distance or something like that. So you just change that. So you can change that heading to online or distance and things like that. We recommend you go to audit with face-to-face classes for initial registration because it's easier to demonstrate that than it is online. Online's a lot more complicated. They don't want download, click and flick. They want a proper interactive forum for online. They need things like where the trainer is live with the student, a bit like this webinar. They're doing interactive activities. They have activities online that they can complete, and you need to have that. Now, if you can do that, that's fine. You can have that clearly outlined in your TAS, how you're going to do that. And they generally will bring an online expert in to your audit. So it's really important that you have a really good platform for delivering your online delivery. So we say do face-to-face or distance, and then switch to online once you get up and going, because then you can rewrite your TAS for online delivery. It just makes it a bit easier. Now, just because we go to audit with face-to-face, it doesn't mean that once you get started, you can't deliver online. You can. You can deliver online straight away. You can change your mode straight away. As soon as you're registered, you can change the mode straight away. You just need to notify ASQA once you get up and going that you've changed the mode of delivery, and here's your new TAS. So I'd be rewriting the TAS first, get up and going, start delivering online delivery, and then rewrite your TAS to how you're delivering online. Anyway, we can talk about that more when you look at 1.8. Work placement hours. So not all qualifications requires work placement. So it's only, this column can be deleted if it's not relevant. So some qualifications like childcare and aged care must have a work placement component, and we need to break that up. Now, we don't need to break it up per unit. You can just say total volume work placement they need to do. And like for childcare, for example, there's about 5 or 6 units that has work placement component connected to it. So if you have assessment tasks that are relevant to a specific unit, then you should put the work placement hours relevant to that specific unit. But if, so aged care, for example, they don't have it specifically against a unit, so you could just do total volume of work placement hours down the bottom here. You don't need to do it per unit. Play around with it. It's not set in concrete that you must do it this way. We've just written it this way so that it meets the requirements of the auditor and what the auditor's requiring. So in particular would be, for example, there are some auditors who don't care about each unit. They don't care about all of these hours for each unit. They just want to know the total volume for the qualification overall, and it will be dependent on your qualification, how you do that. But this should align with your delivery and assessment plan, which we're going to go through later. This should align with that delivery and assessment plan, and these hours should align with what you've got in there. Okay, on there. The rationale, this section is why did you select these units? In particular, electives, not so much core, so core you have to do, but elective units. Why did you select those elective units? If you're just doing a single unit, we don't need this column, this row. You can take this whole row out. It's not required for single units, but for a full qual, it should be in here, and I might just put in here full qualification only. Here, you see, I'm doing a review of our tasks. Great, isn't it? So this is my continuous improvement, full qualification, not required for a single unit. Okay, so it's just an outline of why did you select these electives. Are you meeting a specific industry need? Is it because it came up in the industry surveys? Is there any specific requirement of why you selected these units? And it just helps the auditor, because the auditor will ask, why did you select these units? It could be, these are the assessment tools that came with the qualification, so that's the reason why we selected the units. We've gone with the experts, they know what they're talking about. They've put these units, these electives together from their industry experience. This is the publisher has done that, and that's the reason why you chose those electives, okay? And it could be then in a year's time, once you get up and going, you might change those units because you identify, oh, hold on, these electives don't actually meet the needs of our typical clients, our students, so we change the units. And you put in your rationale here a year later. We changed some of the units because industry consultation, our student feedback said they weren't relevant, so we decided to change from these units to these units. So that's a way you can demonstrate continuous improvement. Okay, licensing requirements, pretty simple. If there's a licensing requirement to a specific unit, so for example, you might be doing first aid. In the first aid requirements, there is, you get your first aid card. It needs to be renewed every 3 years, so you put that in there. So the licensing requirements of this is students are required to renew their first aid certificate every 3 years, and we've taken this into consideration when we're put together this training and assessment strategy, i.e. there might be students who only need to do a refresher course each year, and they already have the certificate, but they just need to do a refresher course, so we've got a refresher component of this course within the training and assessment strategy, so that we know how we're going to deal with the students who are doing the refresher and how we're going to deal with the students who are doing this from brand new, from scratch, so they've never done first aid before. Now, if you have a qualification like aged care or childcare, you need to also put in the licensing requirements. One of the units of this course is first aid, and that has a licensing requirement, but the remainder of the qualification doesn't have a licensing requirement, and this is how we've met the requirement of that first aid unit, okay? Or a licensing requirement could also be things like heavy vehicle licensing, so heavy vehicle truck licensing, so we put the specific requirements of our RMS, which is Roads and Maritime Services, what are the licensing requirements for a student if they get a heavy vehicle certificate, how do they get the license, and what are the requirements around that. Now, most of the time we can just copy and paste that from the relevant licensing body, so we can actually just find that from the licensing body. So RMS, for example, has what are the licensing requirements for heavy vehicle, and we just can cut and paste that into there. So that's pretty simple. Often our clients do know a lot of what they need to know for the licensing requirements, but we just look it up for you and just find it. Okay. All right, the next section is target client group. As I said, this is one of the important areas of this one, and industry consultation, which is a bit further down, so how we effectively consulted with industry. Okay, so target group is who are you going to target for this qualification, so training product? Who are we going to target? Now, we've listed a whole heap here. Do not keep all of them. A lot of clients go, yeah, but we want all of these. No, pick a specific group. And the reason why we want you to pick a specific group is when the auditor comes in, they want to have a look at, do you have the training and assessment tools to meet this group needs? Do you have support services to meet this group needs? So if you have a wide range, it means you're going to have more in your training and assessment tools, more in your support services, and more strategies in place on how you're going to meet all of these needs. So what will happen is you might go, okay, we know that our typical students are going to be existing industry or enterprise employees. They're going to be people who, so for example, a diploma of leadership management, that they should be existing workers. They should be someone who's already got skills and experience, have already worked in management or something like that, and already have that skills and knowledge. Now, you might capture other people as you go do marketing. It doesn't mean just because we don't have it in the TAS that you can't take those students on board. It just means we've targeted these people. If we happen to capture these other people, that's fine. That's okay, we can do that. But we've targeted these people, and this is how we've written our training and assessment strategy, our assessment tools, our delivery modes, how we're going to deliver it, how we're going to assess it. So we've written it so we're specifically meeting this existing worker needs. If you happen to capture these other people, you can just go, well, this is our delivery mode, but we can adapt it to meet your needs. So it might be a recent school leaver who's decided they want to do a diploma of leadership management. The only way you could take a recent school leaver is they've already done a certificate in business. So they might have done a certificate 2 or 3 as a school-based apprenticeship or during school, so you could take them on board and you would do a specific delivery plan that's going to meet their needs. And then it might be in a year's time you go, oh, actually we're getting a lot of people who are school leavers. Let's rewrite our TAS for that specific target audience. It's one of my big arguments that I have with the auditors is how do we know who our target audience is unless we're actually up delivering? So that's why I go, just target one area, just pick one that you want to target, and they're the ones that you're going to go for and write your TAS for, because who knows where you're going to be in a year's time. In a year's time you can go, okay, no, that's actually not our target audience. We seem to be targeting unemployed people. And what strategies have we developed over the last year to meet those unemployed people requirements? So it could be that you aligned yourself with a job network provider, with recruitment agencies, with disability worker companies, things like that, and then you could rewrite this TAS in a year's time. So let's just keep it simple for initial registration, and then over the year you'll redevelop the TAS to what you actually are doing and how you're actually delivering. So it's really important that this area, don't select all of them, as I said, just try and pick a specific area that you're going to target, and then that will make it easier for when you go to audit. Okay, existing skills and knowledge. Existing skills and knowledge that the student would need. You may need to add to this. It might be that if you've said your target audience is existing industry or enterprise employees, you may need to change this to actually adapt it to what are the existing workers' skills requirements going to be. I'm actually just going to update this now. Should be customised for the specific target audience. And how are you going to meet these needs? Now, this is coming up a lot in audit, so it's the reason why I'm picking this up. They've actually said, okay, existing skills and knowledge, how are you going to meet the existing skills and knowledge of your target audience? So you said this is who your target audience is, how are we going to meet that? Now, we've just got basic reading and writing, oral communication, numeracy and mathematics. This is a very basic level, your Cert 2, Cert 3s, but it might be you've said, okay, we want existing workers. Okay, so existing workers, they need to have prior skills and knowledge. They need to have at least, so if you're doing diploma of leadership and management, for example, they need a minimum of 3 years industry experience. They need to have worked as a manager or supervised staff, and that's where we put that. We put that in here. This is this is the skills and knowledge they should have before they come in and do this course, and then this should also go on your marketing material. So it's clear to the student, okay, I need to have this if I want to do this course. I need to have these skills and knowledge before I come in. So this is, it is a big target area where the auditors are targeting that, okay? I'm just moving along because I've got a few more things I need to go through. Minutes left. Okay, selection criteria. So this selection criteria ties in with these. So if we've said existing workers and 3 years industry experience, we need to put in here the selection criteria. Okay, you need to have at least 3 years. You need to have, if it might be that they're doing heavy vehicle truck licensing and they need to have a driver's license first. So it might be part of the licensing requirements. This is, sorry, I said the existing skills and knowledge we put on the course flyer is actually this one we put on the course flyer, selection criteria. So we take some of the information above from the client group and from existing skills and knowledge and we put it in here. It might be that they need to complete a police record check. So for childcare and aged care, they must have completed a police record check. So they need to have the willingness to complete that, and you need to declare that up front so that the student knows they're going to have to undertake that. They need to do a working with children check. So if you're doing childcare, you have to do a working with children check before you can do this course. What is the training or employment? This may not be relevant to all, but as I said, for diploma of leadership management, they should have at least 3 years industry experience of working in an office, and they should have some experience of managing or supervising staff. So that's where we put that in here. Are there any entry requirements? Do you require them to complete year 10, 11, 12 beforehand? Is there a specific age? So for example, heavy vehicle truck licensing, they have to be a specific age and they have to have their black license. They can't be on their red peas or green peas or anything like that. Oh, no, I think it can't be on the red peas, they can be on the green peas. So that's just some examples, but we pulled those out of the licensing requirements. Do they have to be physically fit? So for first aid, childcare and aged care, they have to be physically fit. So due to the physical requirements of this unit or qualification or industry, the student must be physically fit to complete the course. So for first aid, they must be able to get down, up and down off the floor. So these are some of the things that we've had to put into our TAS as we've adapted on the go. And it might be in the selection criteria, there might be specific things that you do consultation that you need to add here. So we put that in there as well. Okay. This client needs section is how have we met the client needs of the student. So that's under support services under clause 1.7, and we have that in our policy and procedure manual. Now I've written specific ones here, so all you've got to basically do is delete them, anything that's not relevant, or adjust it. So low language and literacy is normally a standard, we're normally going to leave that in there. Are you targeting English as a second language? We've said if you are, you're going to do an LNN assessment, but you may need to adjust this. This one, physical or mental disabilities, it might be that they are doing first aid and they can't have a physical disability, so we might need to delete just that role, that physical, and just have mental disabilities, or we just change it, adjust it and say, well, students have to be physically fit in order for them to do this, so we can't. For physical disabilities, they must be physically fit. So it's basically a matter of you need to identify which ones you need to delete here or adjust. Normally when I come to mock audit, this is something that I'll review with you to make sure that these are correct. Now you might have other specific needs that were identified during industry consultation, or specific needs you've identified through delivery of training, so you can add, so that's what this column row is for, so you can add some extra ones in there. So it's basically adjusting or deleting the row, and then adding more there. Now, this reasonable adjustment is part of your policies and procedures. It's how you're going to adjust the training to meet the student needs. Now, some of the things I've been picked up on is if it's a unit that can't have a disability, we need to delete that. So some things that we've picked up here, if they've had, we may not be able to modify. So that one might be something that we need to delete because of physical requirements. To delete due to physical. Okay. Whereas the others, we're pretty much, we can leave in there. So it just ties in with the policy and procedure. Okay. Industry consultation, really important part. I'm going to go into this in a bit more detail, so I'm not going to go through every line here. Industry days, this is where we just put in here, who did you survey, what was their name, what was their role, when did we do that survey, and we provide that as evidence at audit. Letters of support are not necessary for every application. If you do happen to have a letter of support, we can put in here. A letter of support is, we've gone to a specific company, they want us to become an RTO because of X, Y, Z. So here's their letter of support for us to become an RTO. You don't have to have a letter of support. We've provided you with a template if you wanted to. It's more important that you have these industry surveys, and we need a minimum of 5. The more the better. The more surveys you can get, the better. I know it can be difficult to get those surveys back. We recently sent out some customer feedback surveys. We sent out over 110, I think, to all of our previous clients to get some feedback on customer service. We got back 35, so that's a pretty good response rate. But I did, as you may know, I absolutely hammered everyone. I was constantly nagging them, please, please, please give us some feedback, because we want to know that what we're doing is meeting your needs. This is the same thing. This industry survey is the same thing. Now, we've got the industry survey form. That doesn't mean you have to use it. You can incorporate that into a SurveyMonkey. And the great thing about SurveyMonkey is it has reminders and things like that that you can send. The only problem is these days, there's a lot of people who are bogged down with so many emails that they don't get to it. So it's up to you how you want to do it. We did it because of the nature of our clients are all over Australia. We did it through SurveyMonkey, and I handed people over the holidays as well to try and get them to complete it over the holidays. So it worked out quite well. We did get a few back, but you need to, it is something you need to harass people about so you can get that feedback back, and it's really, really important. Like, I see our industry feedback that we're getting back from you guys is really important, because we need to improve our practices based on, you know, what do you think? How are we going? What are we doing? You know, things like that. This survey is how, you know, how do we meet your needs? How do we meet, what are the typical issues you're having with your staff? How could we improve that through our training? So I'm going to go through the survey a bit later. So as I said, letters of support are not necessary. Training needs analysis is only required if you have an employer specifically that you're going to be working with. Only required for employers. I'll fix that up a bit. So it might be at that example that I gave you. It might be that the project management company, they had a specific company that they wanted to target. They went in and did a training needs analysis of that company. I'm going to go into more detail about that. So I'll just skip that and keep going. This is where we put the feedback, the industry surveys and the consultation, all the consultation we've done. Now, this doesn't have to be just from the, we put the surveys in there, but it can be just meetings you had with people. Any consultation that you've undertaken, you can put it in here. What feedback do we get? It could be, we don't want the course delivered during the day. Our students need to go at night time. It could be there's not enough technical skills that the students are learning in other courses that they're doing. We need more technical skills. And then how have you addressed that feedback? How are you going to improve your training based on that? It could be that the students, that the feedback comes back and says, we only want the course delivered at night time. Some feedback, it may not have been all feedback, and you go, well, the majority of our feedback was daytime. They wanted the course during the day, and our trainers are only available during the day, so we're delivering it during the day. So just address all the feedback and say, okay, they said this, but this is what we're going to do. It could be, they said this, they need more technical skills, so we're going to include more technical skills in our course. So that's what we put in there. So this industry consultation, most part of your training and assessment strategy, I can't stress this enough. The auditors, this is what they're looking for, but also this is what industry needs. How are you meeting industry needs? We need to make sure that we're addressing what do they want. We're not developing a course and throwing it out there and go, here you go, you need to do this, but we haven't actually asked anybody how they want this course delivered. That's why you do industry consultation, so that we've actually said, hey, we've gone out, we've asked people, this is what they want, this is the issues they're having, and this is how we've addressed those issues. Okay. Staff matrix is pretty self-explanatory. All you've got to do for this is complete the staff matrix and add it to this. Physical resources, this is just listing, what textbooks are we using, what's the publisher, is there any other, so this specific textbook, what do we need at our training facilities? This is what we have at facilities, but what do we need off-site? If we're going off-site somewhere, what else do they need? So if we're doing a first aid course, we're going to need a specific size room, we're going to need tables and chairs, we're going to need a data projector, we're going to need, you list in here everything you're going to need for that course in here. Facilities and resources, so we've got training facilities. What other resources do we need? If they're doing work placement, so they're doing industry placement, what do they need at their work placement? What equipment do they need? Now your CLO will put it in here from the training package or the implementation guide, what equipment you're going to need specifically. So it's going to be for first aid, you're going to need mannequins, you need adult mannequins, infant mannequins, you're going to need masks, you're going to need EpiPen, things like that. So this will all be listed here. Now all the equipment your CLO puts in here, you must have, because it's come from the training package, you must have this equipment. So it's either you've got to have purchased it, the student have access to it from work placement, you've begged, borrowed, stolen it, you've got it here, you've got to make sure that your students have access to this equipment. The CLO will also put in here any simulated environments that you must have. So if the training package says this must be conducted under simulated environment, they'll put in here that must be the way you're going to do it. And then you might need to add, okay, how are you going to conduct those simulations? How are you going to ensure that the student is going to be able to meet the requirement of the simulation? Okay, so as I said, if they're going off-site, if they're going to be delivering at work placement or things like that, you need to have what resources must be at that work placement, what resources must be at each training venue. So the top one is your specific, have your own. If you're delivering in other premises, what are you going to have at those other premises? So for example, we delivered RSA courses when I had my RTO at a variety of different pubs around New South Wales. We had a travelling roadshow, and we had a crate of everything the trainer needed to take to their training, and it included things like glasses, signage, legislation, things like that. And then here at the resources here, we'd say, okay, we're delivering it in a pub for RSA. When we're delivering in a pub, they must have these resources. So they must have tables and chairs, they must have a data projector, must have a whiteboard. They might have glasses there that the students need to access, or signage there that they need to access. When we delivered a course called Operate a Bar, we needed to deliver it in a pub, and they needed to have access to a bar and a keg, and they needed glasses and things like that. So that's what we list here, is all the resources they needed at that venue if they were delivering at a different venue. Following are the details of the provider of the above resources. So if you have, this is only required if someone else is providing the resources. So the RSA course, we're bringing everything with us other than the tables and the chairs, so that didn't need anything else. But it might be for the bar operations, we needed them to provide a keg, we needed them to provide a bar, we needed to provide glasses and things like that. So what do they need to provide there? Okay. All right, so that's resources. No one's had any questions, so I'm hoping I've covered everything. So if you have any questions, please note them down, and I can answer them. Okay, this is how you're going to deliver the course. Is it going to be classroom based? Is it going to be online? Is it going to be correspondence? Most of the clients is classroom based. How many hours per week are you going to deliver? How many days per week? How are you going to deliver this? So it should be something that we can cut and paste and put on the flyer, and the students will know how the course is going to be delivered. We've got a few different methods there, but there should also be hours, days, months. You know, it should be broken down to how are you going to deliver that course. If there's any simulation, how are you going to simulate the activity? So that's only required, you can delete this row if simulation is not required. Row can be deleted if simulation not required. Okay, so that's that one, yellow. This row is only required for simulation if simulation is required. If it's not required, just delete the row. Delivery structure. So this is where I'm breaking it down. So this is the mode of delivery. Sorry, I started to need that here. This is the delivery structure. So classroom pace, how many sessions each session, how many total, you might be how many days a week, you include in there as well. How many hours do they need self-paced? So how that should match up with the hours that we had at the front. So this is in total, you're going to need to allocate 20 hours per week and this many hours in total. So, or how many hours before the course do they need to do? So it might be they have 2 hours of pre-reading before they come to the course for a one-day course that they're going to need to do before they come in. And as I said, it's the weakest student, so the weakest student you've got in the class. If they're doing work placement, how many hours of work placement do they need? If they're not, so that we've got work placements here. So we're going to have the same for this one. Row can be deleted if not, work placement is not required. So not everyone needs to do work placement. So you only need to do work placement if the qualification, it says that you need to do work placement. So this row can be deleted. As course, students will do work placement, so only if it is a requirement and that they need to do it at this facility, or you might have a list of facilities that they're going to do it with, that there will be supervisors in the workplace who has a minimum of 3 years industry experience in that as a supervisor or within that role, so that they can supervise the students sufficiently. So we've written this against the requirements of the what's happened in audit, what the auditors are expecting. We've also said you can change this. Supervisors in the workplace must have 3 years industry experience. There might be something specific that they need to have. They might need to hold a license. There might be other things that you require the supervisor to have in place. So these are things, all of this can be adjusted. Even though I've color coded this, all of this can be adjusted, should be adjusted to your RTO. Okay, assessment methods. We've just listed different types of assessment methods. You should delete what's not relevant. So if you're not doing observation demonstration, delete that. If you're not doing oral questioning, delete that. If you're not doing written, delete that. So that should match mapping and what you're actually doing. So you need to delete that. This is your delete that, not the CLO, because you know what your assessment tools are. You should have assessment mapping. If you have assessment mapping with your assessment tools, we only need this row. If you don't have assessment mapping, then you need to populate this area. So we need to put in here, so the CLO will put all the units in there for you. You need to say, what are the assessment methods? Now you can change these assessment methods. It doesn't have to be exactly these. These map up with the rows up here. You put in what are your actual assessment methods. And they should also map up methods up here. So if you're calling it something else, change it up here. Change the assessment method up here. So it's only required if you don't have a mapping tool with your assessment tools. If you don't have it, you need to fill in this section. If you do have it, you only need that section. And then we provide that at audit to the auditor. Okay, delivery and assessment plan. I'm going to go through a bit further with that. I'm going to run out of time, I know. I'm going to go over time, so if you need to cut out early, that's fine. I'm going to go over time because I want to make sure I cover all of this. And then you can watch the video later. Last section here is validation process. That's just policy and procedure. So it's our assessment validation skill. Provide you with that. The CLO will provide you with that, and we'll have all of those that material there for you. This is how we get part of your policies and procedures again is how you're going to monitor and review that. You're going to review it on a yearly basis. You're going to minute in your meeting, do opportunities for improvement. It may move this based on the complaints and bills. So this just ties in with policies. You should sign this up before you go to audit and have who signed it off and the date that it was signed off. So this is an auto date in here, but you should have what date you signed it off. And then it should be 1 year later, you should have scheduled that review, or it might be in January each year. So you can just put January, that you're going to review your TAS in January. Responsible, we always put the CEO is responsible for the review of the TAS. Ultimately, they're responsible for everything. So if you've nominated yourself as the CEO, congratulations, you're responsible for all the compliance within the RTO. Okay, all right, so I'll just switch back to PowerPoint. I hope I haven't lost you. I think I've lost a couple of people. Yep, I've got a couple of people left on, so I'll just keep going with the slides. Okay, so that was training and assessment strategy. Industry consultation. Industry consultation is continuous and ongoing throughout your registration. It should be something you do on an ongoing basis. I don't want to come back for your 1 year post initial and you haven't done any more industry consultation. It should be something you do every time, all the time, every day. It should be something you should do. Consultation ensures that your training and assessment meets the industry needs. Are you actually meeting their needs? And when consulting, when you are consulting, it is important to ensure that you speak to the right people. It should be managers, human resources managers, supervisors, the owner of the business. It should be people who would be potential employers that would recruit your students in the future. Don't get Joe Blow off the street to do the industry survey. You need to get people who are going to be the typical people who would employ your students once they do finish your course. So we have industry engagement strategies, going to conferences, workshops, forums, doing this webinar is part of your industry engagement, attending industry skills council, which we'll have to change, that's now changed. We'll get a new name. The industry skills councils are debunked now, they're all gone, and we still haven't been advised what's happening, but we're going to have, there will be workshops in the future. Vet conferences and workshops. So we have our conference in May. Excellent opportunity for you to do some networking and engage with other industries and learn. So there will be people there you can learn from to help you with your business. Undertaking industry surveys, and I've also included here SurveyMonkey is a method that you could use. So undertaking industry surveys, getting letters of support, meeting with industry, obtaining needs analysis, subscribing to newsletters, and engaging consultants like us. Okay, the industry survey, just pop into that. I think I've lost everybody now, but I'm just going to keep going for the recording. Okay, so the industry survey form is a form that we've provided you that you can use for engaging with the industry. Now, as I said, you can change this. Sorry, I better share my desktop. I'm showing you the form, not there. So I'll show you the form. So the industry survey form is to be used for, you can send it out to people, you could do it over the phone, you could sit down with someone face to face and actually chat with them and go through the form with them. There's different ways to do it. Or as I said, you can do through SurveyMonkey. So you can send this through SurveyMonkey. Now the way I've written the industry survey form, you're taking some details of the person who's completing the form, get them to sign it. This is something auditors were asking for. They wanted to actually get verification that someone's actually done it. If you've done it over the phone, you can just write here, survey taken over the phone. So you can just put it in there. The date you did the survey and their contact number. We're getting auditors who are actually ringing the people who've completed the surveys and actually asking, do you know this organisation? Did you complete this survey? Because they want to, because unfortunately there's been some dodgy people who haven't actually completed their industry surveys. They've filled it in themselves, and they are now checking are they actually completing the form or not. So if you're doing it via SurveyMonkey, you can just provide the SurveyMonkey results as part of your evidence. So you can just do that. You don't need to actually show them the survey form. Your CLO will put in here what target course, what course are you going to be targeting for this survey, or you can do it, you can pop it in here as well. It'll put in here what course are you targeting, what qualification are you targeting here. Your RTO name or in it. So we want them to tick, who are they, where have they come from? There should be a manager of some type. In relation to this target course up here, who we are focusing for this survey, what do you believe is the biggest skill gap that you are experiencing with your company? We want to know what are the issues that you're having. So if you're doing a first aid course, what first aid area are they missing out on? If you're doing childcare, what are the skills that, when you're getting new staff that are coming on board, what skills are they missing? What do they need more training in? So then you can go, okay, we need to focus our training on that skills gap. So how are we going to meet that skills gap for that organisation? With your industry as a whole, so this one was just specific to your company. This is the industry as a whole. In the industry as a whole, what do you feel are the skills shortages? What's the biggest skill shortage within your industry? So if it's childcare, it could be one of the issues that we've identified is that students are coming out of a childcare course and they don't know which way to put the nappy on. That's a big issue. That's because they're doing the childcare course online and they've never actually changed a nappy before. So it is a big issue. We need to make sure that we're addressing that. So an industry as a whole could be the childcare industry. So I have an example. So for aged care, I identified that a skill shortage as an industry as a whole is that the students didn't have enough technical skills. They didn't know how to use a laptop or an iPad or a computer, and they were scared of computers. So we got that as feedback. And we incorporated into our course a computer course so that the students were able to get those technical skills that they needed. When it comes to staff within your company, what has been the biggest challenge that you've had with your staff, so with their skills and knowledge? So how can we, in relation to this course, so how can we meet the needs of the challenges that you're experiencing? When it comes to the target course, what do you believe are the essential skills and knowledge that people should have before they come in to get a job? What should they know? What do they need to know? Because you can see from these questions how we can specifically address the needs of those industries. Do you believe what's currently being offered in the industry meets your expectations, has sufficient training to enable staff to perform their duties, provides your staff with skills that they need to work in your industry? So these are just tick boxes, yes and no. If no, we can ask why. So you can easily adapt this to a SurveyMonkey. So you can put these in the SurveyMonkey and have questions why. When choosing a training organisation, what training and assessment practices are you looking for? So you're looking for them to do simulation, practical skills, theoretical knowledge, things like that. That's just some examples, but it might be specific things that they need. When it comes to employee skills and knowledge of facilities and equipment, what do you believe is the biggest skills gap? So what equipment do you need? As I said, there was a issue with aged care industry where they didn't have enough computer skills. So it could be that they come back and don't have enough computer skills, things like that. When seeking a training provider for your staff, what do you believe should be the minimum skills and experience trainers and assessors should have? So how many years experience do you think the trainer or assessor should have? This is one of the actual standards, actually says they want you to get consultation on what experience should your trainers and assessors should have. So you should put that in there. Now you'll know we've only got 10 questions there, 9, less than 10 questions. SurveyMonkey is free for up to 10 questions. So I've kept it specifically under 10 so that you can use SurveyMonkey and you can use the free version of SurveyMonkey. So I strongly recommend it. As I said, we got a really good response rate out of 110. We got 35 for our customer feedback survey. So we've got to, and you need to keep harassing. There's facilities in SurveyMonkey that where you can keep sending them reminders of the industry surveys. Okay, all right, so I'm just going to have a quick look at a training needs analysis. This is the template for training needs analysis. As I said, this is specific for a company. If you've said, we've got a specific company that we want to deliver training to. Fill this out with them. This is one you should go to the site or sit down and have a meeting with them and fill in this, and you could type it in as you go, and you fill in this information, and you should have more feedback that you should add to the back. So, you know, what is their structure? What are they considering for their training? What are their goals with their training in the next 6 to 12 months? Do they have any policies and procedures in place? How many employees do they have? What is their staff turnover like? So this is some feedback that we can get to identify how we're going to meet the needs of that actual company, that specific company. What training do they propose? What are the desired results they want of that training? Now you can adjust this form specifically for the company that you surveyed. So if you're doing a training needs analysis of a specific company, you can adjust this and add more details and things like that. But it's a great starting point if you have a specific company that you want to undertake a training needs analysis. As I said, it's only required if you want a specific company, if you want to do industry consultation with that specific company. Not required for everybody. If you don't have a specific company, then we just delete that row within your TAS. This is the delivery and assessment plan. This is your plan on how you want your training and assessment delivered. Now, you might be the trainer or assessor at the moment, so you might have an idea of how you want this training and assessment delivered. You need to document it, because in future you might hire trainers and assessors and you get them to follow this training, delivery and assessment plan. The way I've written it is I've written it so that you can give it to a student, and the student at the start of the course has a structure of how the course will be delivered. Now, a lot of this information is taken from the TAS. We take that structure from the TAS, how many days per week, how are you going to deliver it, is there any pre-work placement, is there things they've got to do on work placement, do they need to do a clinical work placement? This may not be required for you. If you're doing a single unit, we recommend you do a session plan, not a delivery and assessment plan. And the reason why is because the session plan is more specific to a one-day course. But for a full qualification, this is really good. This is a training timetable, so the trainer knows what order the units will be delivered, but also the students know as well. And you can put here what resources the trainer needs, but you could also put what resources will the student need. If they might need a textbook, they might need to bring in their own resources. It might be they need specific clothing that they need to have. We also have a row here of when work placement starts, so if that's not relevant, we can just take that out. How are you going to, if they do need to do work placement, so you just delete the rows that are not applicable for your course. This is a work placement component, so if work placement is not applicable, you just delete this, but you work out here, you tell the student here, this is what you need to do at work placement, where you need to do it, these are some MOUs we have in place, these are places that you can go, this is what you're going to need at work placement, these are the tools you're going to have to take. So this is instructions to your student on what they're going to need at work placement, and the auditor will want to see this. They want to see that you've got clear instructions to your student on what they need at work placement. The assessment plan, so we have a training timetable, but we also have an assessment plan. So the assessment plan is, okay, we've delivered these units, now for each unit you need to do this unit, and these are the assessment tasks you're going to do for that unit. So they should align with the assessment tools that you actually have. So it should be in here what tasks, so you need to delete this row once you've completed this task. This is just an example row, but you need to delete this. So put in here what tasks do they need to do, and it should align with all your assessment tools. So all your assessment tools should be listed in here, and then you should put the due date. So you can say end of week 1, end of week 2, end of week 3, whatever your, so you don't have to put a specific date. You could down the track do a specific date, but make it easy, just put what week number it's due. Okay, task description needs to be included, i.e. the student will be required to be assessed on 3 occasions for hand washing, for example. These are just some examples that you could put in there. Delivery plan. So this delivery plan, this is a guide here for your trainer assessor on how to follow the delivery plan. So, and it gives them a basic rundown of how the delivery plan's being put together. And then for the student, it tells the student, okay, this is what you need to follow. This is how we're going to deliver the qualification. So in here, you'll put the unit, You put the topics that you're going to deliver for that unit. So you could just make it up or just use the headings from the unit in your textbook. What activities are they going to do? What assessment tasks? We just cut and paste that from up the top. And then what resources will the trainer need? So what resources will the trainer need to deliver this unit? So you need to populate this with all your units and including all the resources and things like that. So as I said, this is something that you're going to give to the trainer assessor, so they're delivering the way you want it to be delivered. It's also something you're going to give to the student, so the student knows they've got a plan on how their training is going to be delivered and assessed, and it's something that the auditor wants to see because they want to see you've got clear instructions for your trainer assessor. And I think I've now covered everything. Let's go back to those slides. Okay, we did industry survey. As I said, the delivery and assessment plan, this provides trainers and assessors with a plan on how the RTO wants their training to be delivered, and the DAP provides an outline for the student on how the course is going to be delivered. Training needs analysis only required if you've got a specific company that you're going to be working with. So you don't need to do it if you're just doing an open course fee for service for generic for anybody. It's just if you have a specific company or that you want to deliver training for. So you're meeting their needs. I was talking about volume of learning. This is a breakdown of volume of learning. So volume of learning, this has come directly out of the Australian Qualifications Framework, and it's also directly out of the standards, and it actually says this is how you should deliver. So our typical clients is Certificate 3. So for a Certificate 3, it should run for 1 to 2 years, and you should have 1,200 to 2,400 hours. Now, you can't go below this. The only way we can go below it is if we say, okay, we're going to do a Certificate 3, and they must have industry experience first, and they must be existing workers, and they must have these skills and knowledge first. Then we can reduce your hours down. That's how we reduce them down. If they're new entrants, unemployed, recent school leavers, you have to go to these hours. You have to go to this how many years. That's how you have to deliver it that way. If you do not have this in your TAS, it'll be non-compliant. It'll be not compliant at audit. And then when you get to your 1 year post-initial, if you said at your initial registration you're going to do existing workers, and 1 year down the track most of your students are school leavers, your TAS should be updated and the mode of delivery should be changed. It should be changed to 1 to 2 years, 1,200 hours to 2,400 hours. So you need to make sure that you're meeting this volume of learning requirements. This is one of the biggest non-compliances, particularly for re-registration, because there are so many RTOs out there who are delivering, and you would know, because your competition are doing it, delivering a Certificate 3 in a week. Holy dolly. There is a case where I was telling you about Diploma of Children's Services delivered in a week online. How could you do Diploma of Children's Services online? Holy moly, unless they're existing workers, there's no way you could deliver it online because they need to know. And the issues have been they don't know how to change a nappy. They're putting the nappy on the wrong way. They don't know how to pick up a child. They don't know how to feed the child. They don't know the requirements of the quality standards and things like that because basically they're getting a rubber stamp certificate. They're not, they're doing this course online. They're not doing the units properly, or they're getting someone else to complete it. They're doing it within a week or a month. And a diploma level, so a diploma level is typically 1 to 2 years and 1,200 to 2,400 hours. So if they're doing it in a week, they're non-compliant. Now, you can submit a complaint about these RTOs that are delivering in less than the required volume of learning. If they're hurting your market, you should tell ASQA about it because they're not delivering properly. They're not delivering the proper industry skills. You can submit a complaint on ASQA. You go on the ASQA website. You can do it anonymously, so you can. There's a box that you can tick to say, I want this to be anonymous and that they can't share your information. We need to complain about these RTOs. There are too many dodgy operators out there who are delivering training assessment in less than the required volume of learning. And what's happening is affecting industry and they're complaining about it. So every time industry complains about the level of training and assessment, who is affected? You are. All RTOs are affected and the standards change. The standards get tighter, because the reason why is industry said, we've got these students here who don't know how to change a nappy, they don't know what they're doing in the industry. So what happens is ASCO go, right, we need to make the standards tighter, we need to audit these RTOs, we need to do a strategic review. So if you're not dobbing them in, we're having issues at this end, and that's why I'm going to be kept in a job, because we have dodgy operators out there, and the standards will constantly change because of these RTOs. So if you know of an RTO that's dodgy, that's not delivering their training and assessment properly, dob them in. Go onto the ASCO website and submit a complaint, and as I said, you can do it anonymously. They're affecting your cash flow, they're affecting your business, because you are having an audit now, you need to comply, and you need to write your training and assessment to be delivered in this volume of learning, so it's affecting you. Until they get audited, they're not going to come in the line. They're not going to deliver within these hours, within this time frame, unless someone submits a complaint and they go to audit because of the complaint. And every complaint is followed up. So if you submit a complaint about an RTO that's not delivering in within correct time frame, so I've had students that came to me who were at another RTO, who weren't getting the training delivered properly. So we had, for one example, we were delivering a Certificate 2 in hospitality. We got it under the Productivity Places programs of government funding. We had students at the time, we didn't have this volume of learning, so it was Certificate 2. We were delivering it in a 5-week period, so now it must be half a year, 6 months. We were delivering it in a 5-week period, and they were doing RSA, RCG, operator bar, clean and tidy a bar, tab and keno. They were doing everything they needed to operate, work in a club or a restaurant. We had students who came into our RSA, RCG course who said, oh, we're doing a Certificate 2 in hospitality and we're doing it with this RTO. They're doing it in a week, and 2 of those days they were coming to us to do RSA, RCG, because this RTO couldn't deliver RSA and RCG. And they were delivering in a week, and the students were sitting in classes with our students who were delivering it in 5 weeks, and they were doing 5 days a week for 5 weeks. And the students were getting a lot more, they were learning a lot more. So we had these students who said they wanted to transfer to our RTO because they were getting, our students were getting better training. Now, we can't have this. We can't have them going into courses and then going off and expected to go work in industry if they haven't actually got the required skills and knowledge. And that's why this is coming to play, this volume of learning. Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now. It's a huge issue in the industry. I want quality education. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here teaching these webinars. I want you to deliver quality education, and we're going to provide you with the tools, the training, and everything that you need in order to be able to comply, but also deliver. Undermining all of this is quality education. We want all of our clients to be quality providers and they're outstanding in the industry, and that's what everything that we do is provide you with the skills and knowledge that you need to provide outstanding education, and also to maintain that balance between compliance and business success. I'm going to lead into the conference, which is all about what we're doing at the conference, where we do a lot of focus on compliance, but another huge area of your RTO is business. And how are you going to grow your business? What are you going to do in your business to make sure you get bums and seats? Make sure you're marketing and getting your name out there and getting the students in your classroom. How are you ensuring that you're financially viable and that you're able to keep this business up and going? How do you ensure that you know what you're doing within your business to deliver your training? And that's what we're doing at the conference. At the conference, we've got speakers who are specifically on social networking, marketing, how to use social networking for your marketing, how to manage your finances. We're also, I'll be speaking about compliance, a couple of things about compliance. We've got people delivering sessions on training and assessment and government funding and how to get government funding. We're also just secured, we've got someone from NEAS who's coming to speak about CRICOS and international students, and because we're going into CRICOS this year, and what you need to do for the CRICOS sector as well. So we've got a great range of speakers. We haven't got very many registrations, which has me worried. We've got 23, 24 speakers, and we need some registrations. So if you haven't registered yet, we've got a discount, the early bird discount up until mid-February. So we need you to go online and go register for this conference. If you're thinking about doing it, this is the time to do it, because we have the early bird special on at the moment, and the price goes up $250 on the 18th of February. So if you haven't registered yet, I'd get onto the website. We've sent you many, many links. There'll be more coming out this week. We've sent you links to the website. Go register online for this conference, because it's going to be an amazing conference, and you're going to learn a lot about the conference. You're going to learn a lot about the industry and what you need to be a successful RTO, because I want quality, successful training organisations. That's my aim. Thank you very much for attending today's session. Please note that all webinars are recorded for your convenience, and a copy will be emailed you following the session. It just takes a while for it to generate, but within the next hour or two, you'll get a copy of the webinar sent to you, and then we'll upload this one also onto Unicorn as well, so you can access this through Unicorn. Thank you very much for attending today, and for the ones that hung around till the end, and for all those ones who are watching the recording, thank you very much for watching the recording and learning what you need to know about training and assessment strategies. Thank you, guys. Catch you at the next webinar. It's only 2 weeks away. I think it is, I'll just get your date here. 1st of February. On the 1st of February will be the next webinar, and the next webinar is on, we'll just quickly go back to the slides. So the next webinar is on 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, all about industry engagement. I can hammer you again about that, but also about support services and how we're going to, what you're going to do to ensure that you meet the requirements of the student needs and support services. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll catch you later in a couple of weeks. Thanks. Bye.